Hey everyone, it's Bakka from Necrofier, and you're listening to
Alright Bakka, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me on Interview Under Fire. Welcome to Dallas. I just want to ask, how is the tour going? What were the days like for you leading up to touring again? And how are you? I guess that's a very important question to start this off.
Everything's pretty good. A little weird getting back into it after a year and a half. Almost felt like it's the first show again or something like that.
Yeah.
Trying to get everything together, forgetting things, just trying to go down the checklist of what we need, like what everything we need. Because I mean, it's been forever.
Right.
But the show's been really great.
And what day of the tour is this?
This is the 4th day.
Okay. So, I gotta ask because, obviously being on the road, are there any health concerns for you guys? Anything?
I mean,
what do you see that's different on this tour as opposed to the tours you went on before the pandemic?
Well, people wearing masks.
Is that weird yet? We're kind of just in the norm now.
I mean, it's Texas, so it's not completely normal, but some people aren't coming out because what's been going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say big differences. There's masks, maybe some people spreading out and things like that. But I mean, we start off in San Antonio, and it was almost close to a regular show kind of thing.
Yeah, during this time, they're fans and musicians. We've kind of been removed from that live concert experience, right? But I want to mention, you guys are from Houston, and what year did Necrofier technically get started?
I think late 2018.
Okay, so 2018. Now, I want to touch base on tour because you talked about the days for you leading up to touring, and I want to ask, what was your favorite part about touring? Do you have a newfound appreciation about it now? Because
there was a lot of stuff I had a lot of time to work on things that I usually don't get to spend that much time on.
Yeah.
Because, besides the band, I'm a concert promoter, so my whole life has been a little strange for the last year and a half.
But it's nice to kind of switch the reverse, reverse the roles, right?
Yeah, I got to work on a lot of new music at the house and just practicing, reading, exercising, just a whole bunch of things that I usually always try to do. And, I had a lot more free time, so I could implement all that.
Yeah. Is there any tour that stands out? As the reason why I asked that question because we're all in this state of a pandemic. It's still going on, but as we move forward through this time, things like just going to a show starts to really, little things like that you start to really focus on. Is there a tour that just stands out in the back of your head?
What do you mean by that?
Your favorite tour that you really recall? Man, I missed that time in my life. I really missed that show. It probably won't be like that again, but what stands out as far as your favorite tour date, your favorite show? Just anything you've experienced in the past?
There's way too many to even think about. But,
top of your head.
Oh, top of my head. My old band did a tour with High on Fire, and it was pretty amazing. Great time. Whole US, all bands for.
Was that before?
This is before Necrofier.
Okay.
Necrofier, whatever you can check it out if you want to. Favorite Necrofier thing we did was we did some dates with 1349, Uhada,
awesome.
Which all those bands are amazing.
And of course, I'm going to segue into this because you've seen this for the last year and a half, right? Live streaming. A lot of the bands work that they're doing on stage, they're taking it to the screen, and it's nice to be back here. This is something that I really miss.
Live stream, I feel like some interviews over Skype and things like that turn out pretty well.
Yeah.
You can kind of sit in a chair and it's
I feel like we could have done that over that time.
Like that. But I feel like, I've seen some dudes do some really great live streams, but I feel there's a lot of work that needs to go into it if you want to get it done right.
Yeah.
You can't just be cool, let's stick my iPhone in the corner of the room and film this and it turns out great. Sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But,
And we've had artists on IUF like Devin Townsend, August Burns Red, and Trivium. They actually came onto our show and they talked about their experiences on selling virtual tickets to the fans, and they would pre-record a show or go on Instagram, whatever the situation may be. But with the amount of touring that you just talked about, the bands that you played with, the venues you performed in, I want to get your take on this. Considering where we are right now, do you think what we all saw during the quarantine-induced live streaming surge is that going affect the touring musician business going forward, or do you still see bands doing something like that once we enter December of 2021 or even in 2022? Loaded question, I know.
Yeah, I think okay. So I think there's a lot of companies that want to do this, and there will be some people I think maybe scared to go to shows for a while. So there might be a market for it depending on who you are, like what kind of music you play. In the metal community, I feel like most people really just want to go to a show. So
something simple right there.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think people will do them kind of. It'll be a thing like it's like where people do like live. They'll be instead of say like a live concert, it'll be a live stream or some things like that. But I think it'll stick around for a little while.
Yeah, that's well said. And there's no wrong answer to what you just said, because I've had so many artists who come on IUF and say, yeah, I would love to do live streaming. It still gives me a chance to engage with my fans. And some artists would say, I'm not doing shit.
I would prefer not to do live streaming.
Yeah, and that's totally okay. There's always that uncertainty moving forward. I don't know if you remember Metallica did this live streaming event last August.
Yeah.
And I went to that. I don't know if my friends did, but luckily my friend had a ticket and Dallas sold out immediately. But I went there and it felt like the turnout was great. People were grabbing beers. I mean, you're getting there to the venue. But then once you sit down in your car, it starts to like really hit you. And the point of me telling you the story is that what is the most popular thing we hear at a metal show? Let me see those horns, right? And you see those sea of horns from the fans. That adrenaline rush that you get, which you'll feel tonight. But I remember 3 Days Grace opened, right, for example, and instead of saying that, they said, hey, let me hear your honky horns. So if you roll your window down, you just hear cars honking just in darkness. But it just made me miss that even more. So I don't know if you even... I know you've never done live streaming. I mean, that's not something that we prefer. We love metal because of why we're doing it, So
experience and being there and seeing people.
Yeah, and but like bands like Metallica and like the bigger bands, it's always something like they'll be able to make it, but then smaller bands and people who are actually coming up to the surface like you guys are, it's not just, you can't just throw yourselves out there, I feel like.
Oh, it's a lot harder. I mean, if you say Metallica, you have a big fan base and people are already, you have a pool where people will see it. Because I feel like maybe say 10% of your fans want us to watch a live stream, so Metallica has millions of fans, so they do a live stream and it's really successful.
Yeah.
But I'd say the smaller the band gets, the smaller the window is, of course, of how many people will watch it. But, I mean, it's still like more something you can have online where people can watch and play.
Hey, it's cool to mosh in your own room, right? But how much longer can you do that for? I feel like once you do live streaming, there's a kind of a barrier hit, but I feel like we could dive into that rabbit hole further and further. Now, we talked about everything. Let's talk about Prophecies of Eternal Darkness, which drops here, October 22nd. So, tell me about that. When did the production or even the idea for that record start?
So we started recording that right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
We planned to record it in the spring, except it took a little bit longer to get some stuff together. And then COVID hit, and we kind of all sat around for a month like everybody, like what's going to happen. And I think we started recording it in May, June.
Okay. Any postponements in there, or you guys just kind of just went by your own schedule?
Yeah, I mean, so we recorded at our drummer's studio.
Okay.
So we could kind of do things at our own pace. And since none of us were really, we weren't doing anything, so we felt kind of safe, like the people we were almost seeing the band.
Yeah.
And we worked on it for, I think, about 2 months. Not continuously, but over like just a couple of sessions a week over like, of course, like a month or a month and a half. Then we mixed it, we got it mastered, and started shopping it somewhere in the beginning of fall.
Beginning of fall of
2020.
2020. Okay. Now with this album, you guys I'm sure there are a lot of people out here who are going to come out tonight who haven't even heard of you guys, which I can't wait to see the turnout. And the sound that you guys have, it is classified as black metal, but if you were to describe your genre to like a fan, is that what you would simply put it as?
I mean, if you want to keep it simple, because I mean, you can sub-genre things to death these days.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's black metal. There's some there's death metal influence, there's heavy metal influence. But I would say the foundation is black metal.
Yeah. I feel like with like black metal, like it kind of get easy to be like, okay, we're thinking about like the snowy vast lands out there, like Scandinavian
it's everything
countries,
from like now there's a giant, there's super giant underground raw black metal scene.
Yeah.
And then I mean there's everything from that to like say to Behemoth, and then in between it's just.
So with Prophecies of Eternal Darkness, this is also a question that I'm interested in. How much did things change from when you first started composing on this album to where you ended up finishing it? Was there already a specific sound you guys had in mind?
Yeah, we had it.
Considering it's a debut album, you know, you got to put yourself
we
out
had
there.
a direction we were going in, and I think we stuck to it. I mean, it's been done for like over a year, so like where we're at now, I'm like, oh yeah, let's write another record. But I mean, everything we were doing on it, we had a goal, and I think we achieved everything we wanted to get out of it.
And
like, I'm really happy it turned out.
Is there a theme to this? Because I know with black metals, you know, it's touches on themes of, you know, the occult and like there's obviously Satan, like the typical stuff. But with this, I feel like you guys are kind of just establishing your identity, your sound, you know, on this with the debut album. Is there a theme to
There's the overall themes of the record. There's like you know, there's like anything like esoteric. There's some stuff that's like some Lucifer themes. There's a bunch of stuff about death, especially with last year in it.
You kind of have to have that.
Yeah, I mean, it fits with it. You know, like I had a bunch of friends pass away last year.
Yeah.
There's I mean, just a whole things like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different topics to touch on when it comes to like the lyrical content and stuff like that. Would you happen to say like you see Prophecies as a snapshot of where you are in a certain time in your life looking back?
I mean, now just because of the way last year was, it kind of seems like it just. I mean, it was recorded during 2020 pandemic, so it kind of sits in that, and also, I guess it almost the way I was going with lyrics even before it started the pandemic, it was going in that direction.
Yeah.
So it kind of the lyrical content almost just fed into what was happening in the world too. So I mean, it is a piece. It was written during all this time and all these things, and it's all involved.
Do you feel any pressure coming out with a debut album, or it's just like, okay, we're just gonna do whatever we want and just put it out there? And because the debut album within, like, especially Season of Mist, that's a big deal for you guys.
Oh, it's amazing.
I feel like it is. You know, you guys are in really good hands with this record label, and I've been working with this label for as long as I've been in business here, and I feel like you guys are in good hands. But I wonder about pressure coming out with a debut album, black metal, you know, Texas. Just there's so many things to pick apart about what makes this release so unique.
I mean, with everything, it's like I put a lot of time into thinking like where like the art direction goes and how like we were talking about the thing about how it should sound, and I'm like overcritical of how I think everything should be, and I'm really happy how it turned out, so I'm not really too stressed out about it.
Yeah, I think it's okay to, you know, be your own worst critic. You know?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel
because I feel like if you weren't, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was going to say that I was going to piggyback off saying if you didn't have that attitude, I feel like you don't care about the craft that you've created, which I really appreciate that you guys are doing that. You know, but I don't know, you want to add something else to that?
Well, I mean, it's we wrote it because we love, like, you know, especially like say later '90s black metal, like, and stuff like that, because that's the vein that I would say most of this record's in. But we wrote it because we love that stuff and we're playing that, you know. Like, I would assume somebody hopefully will listen to it, but you know, it wasn't. We didn't write it with the intent that like, hey, you're gonna love it. You know, I mean, we wrote it for us, and like, you know, I think that's all you can do.
So you're talking about staying busy with the pandemic. You already have stuff like new material ready for another album soon.
I mean, we have a bunch of stuff written. Yeah, we'll probably start working on it in the next couple months. But like it was a bunch of free extra time, and it was instead of just sitting around and wasting it, you know, trying to make the best of it.
All right, man. This has been great. Usually I end my interviews on a really fun note, but I was going to ask, you know, we talked about themes a little bit, but I don't know if we touched on it too much, but I want to ask, like, your 5 favorite movies or just albums at the top of your head, whichever one you want to tackle that you can think of that you want to mention it.
5 favorite.
Do you want to do movies or music? I'll let you take the call on that.
Let's see. Okay, we can do movies.
Okay. I went to film school for 3 years, so you're talking to the right person.
Okay, so I would say probably my favorite film of all time is The Ninth Gate.
Oh my
gosh. I watched
gosh.
it way too many times.
I don't think there's any such thing as way too many times for that film.
I know. Okay, second favorite would probably be Blade Runner, then Eyes Wide Shut. Warriors.
Okay.
And
that's like a
fifth year.
Putting on the spot now.
Yeah.
You got 4.
I'm just trying to go through my
Usually
mind.
usually that 5th one is usually like what's something that'll just like surprise the listeners, like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. You have a guilty pleasure in there?
I don't know if I'm going to give the guilty pleasure away. I'm trying to think on the list of stuff that I watch like way too often. Just, you know.
We're gonna play the Jeopardy theme during this part, so you're good.
Oh, wait, sorry. Escape from New York.
That's a good one. So it's crazy you said two movies that really stood out to me. Eyes Wide Shut is probably my favorite Kubrick film of
It's amazing.
all time.
Yeah. And the crazy thing with that movie is I feel like the more you watch it, the more you pick up on it.
The lore behind that movie is so, I don't want to say scary, but it makes you want to dig deeper into it.
Yeah.
Because we're probably surrounded by those exact same scenarios as we're talking right now. And then did you say, so Blade Runner or 2049? Which one?
I like both of them, but like
Okay.
the original Blade Runner, I've seen a lot more than that.
One of the best sequels I've ever seen.
I seriously was floored by the sequel.
So Bakka, this has been an honor. Do you have any just last words, any shout outs, anything you'd like to plug in as far as Necrofier and Prophecies of Eternal before we finish things off here?
Record, please.
Buy the new record?
Yeah.
Alright man, hey, I appreciate your time man. Can't wait to do this again. Hey, thanks for being my first guest.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Post-pandemic, I don't know if we can say that, but this has been great.
Post-pandemic-ish.
Yeah. Alright, I appreciate you dude.